The summer evening draped the city in a soft, amber glow. From her apartment balcony, Emma leaned on the railing, the warm breeze teasing her hair. The streets below were alive with murmurs of life, distant laughter, the hum of cars, the faint scent of food drifting from a nearby cafe. Yet up here, high above the chaos, everything felt still intimate, almost secret. She sipped her wine and let her thoughts wander. The balcony had always been her refuge, a private world of quiet shadows and whispered dreams. Tonight, however, it felt different. Tonight, she wasn't alone in her imaginings. Across the courtyard, on the opposite balcony, she noticed him. At first, he was just a shape against the fading light, leaning casually on the iron railing of his own balcony. His presence was magnetic, though she couldn't place why. There was something about the way he moved, fluid and unhurried, that made her pulse quicken. Emma had seen him before, of course. The man in apartment 7B, tall, dark-haired, always wearing crisp shirts that somehow seemed both formal and effortless. She had noticed him in passing, on the elevator, or once rushing down the hallway with a stack of books clutched to his chest. But now, in the soft glow of the evening, she felt the sudden, inexplicable pull toward him. He seemed to sense her gaze. Their eyes met briefly, and a smile, slight but knowing, passed between them. Emma's cheeks warmed. She turned, pretending to check her phone, though her heart was still racing. Minutes later, she couldn't resist. She leaned back over the railing again, daring a glance. He was still there, and this time, he waved. A small, casual gesture, yet it carried a promise, one she didn't fully understand, but wanted to. Emma's mind whirled with possibilities. Who was he really? What did he think when he looked at her from across the courtyard? The city felt alive with potential, and suddenly, the shadows on their balconies seemed to stretch toward one another, bridging the distance between two people who had never spoken. As the sky deepened into a velvety blue, Emma realized she wanted this moment to last forever. She wanted to know him, not just the silhouette she saw now, but the person behind it. There was something thrilling about the uncertainty, about the quiet danger of desire hidden in plain sight. The evening wore on, and a soft hush fell over the courtyard. Their eyes continued to meet, and unspoken words hung between them like the fragrant night air. Emma imagined what it would be like to walk across the small space that separated them, to finally speak, laugh, maybe even touch. But for now, she was content with the anticipation, with the slow burn of curiosity and attraction. When the first stars appeared above, twinkling softly in the night sky, he disappeared from view. Emma felt a pang of longing, realizing how quickly the moment had slipped. Yet in its place, there was a spark, a promise of what might come. The balcony, once a quiet retreat, now felt charged with possibility. Shadows stretched and shifted, but this time they carried a whisper of desire, a secret conversation between two hearts. And Emma knew, deep down, that tonight was only the beginning. The next morning, the city buzzed with its usual rhythm, cars honking, vendors calling, people rushing to their destinations, but Emma's mind was elsewhere. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the shadow of him on his balcony, framed by the soft glow of twilight. She felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. Who was he really? And why did a simple wave make her heart race so fast? Determined not to let the feeling fade, Emma found herself lingering on her balcony again that evening, long before the sun began its descent. She made sure the space was tidy, her favorite chair placed perfectly by the railing, and poured herself a glass of wine, a ritual she now associated with anticipation rather than relaxation. Across the courtyard, the apartment opposite hers remained dark. Emma sighed, feeling a pang of disappointment. Maybe it had just been a fleeting moment yesterday, a trick of the fading sunlight. But then, a shadow moved. A shape appeared, tall and unmistakable. Her heart jumped. He was there. This time, he held something in his hands. A small potted plant, perhaps, or a delicate flower. He leaned on the railing and, seeing her, lifted it in a subtle, almost shy gesture, as if sharing a secret with her alone. Emma blinked, startled by the intimacy of the action. Was it meant for her? Or was it simply a coincidence? Before she could overthink, he spoke. Just a soft, "Good evening," carried across the courtyard. The sound was richer than she expected, smooth and calming, like the final note of a song you didn't know you were waiting for. Emma found herself replying without thinking, "Good evening," her voice catching slightly, betraying her nerves. He smiled again, this time broader, more confident. "I didn't know if I'd catch you out here," he said, his voice casual yet intentional. "I didn't want to disturb, but," he trailed off, and Emma felt a blush creep across her cheeks. "Disturb? No," she managed, trying to sound composed. I was just enjoying the evening." He nodded, and for a moment, silence settled between them. But it wasn't awkward, it was charged, full of unspoken curiosity and a growing connection neither of them could deny. "What's your name?" she finally asked, almost timidly. It felt strange to speak across such a distance, yet necessary. He hesitated, then replied, "Liam." Short, simple, yet somehow perfect. "And you?" "Emma," she said, feeling the words like a small admission of intimacy. "Emma," he repeated, as if savoring the sound, letting it linger in the space between them. "It suits you." Her stomach fluttered. The compliment was fleeting, but it carried weight, a subtle acknowledgement of her presence, her essence. For the first time, Emma felt seen, not just the silhouette on the balcony, but her whole self, recognized across the distance. The conversation continued in fits and starts, each word measured, playful, teasing. They talked about trivial things at first: the weather, the city, the small quirks of apartment living. But beneath the small talk, a current of something deeper pulsed. Every glance, every smile, every tilt of the head seemed to draw them closer, making the distance between the balconies feel both vast and yet insignificant. Emma noticed details now: the way his hair caught the light, the curve of his smile, the subtle warmth in his eyes. Liam noticed hers: the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gentle sway of her shoulders as she leaned on the railing. Every observation became a private language, a silent communication neither of them could resist. When night fully descended, painting the city in deep shades of navy and silver, Liam finally spoke again. "I hope this isn't too forward," he said, "but, would you like to join me on my balcony tomorrow? Maybe share a glass of wine?" Emma's heart leapt. The invitation was simple, yet it held promise, anticipation, a step towards something neither had defined but both clearly desired. "I'd like that," she replied softly, trying to keep her voice steady, though it trembled with excitement. As they said their quiet goodnights, Emma retreated inside, her balcony now just a frame of shadows and soft light. She felt exhilarated and vulnerable all at once. Tomorrow, the space between them would shrink, and the shadows on the balcony would take on a new, thrilling shape, one that promised connection, discovery, and perhaps even a hint of romance that neither could resist. The following evening, Emma found herself pacing her apartment, a mixture of nerves and excitement buzzing in her chest. She had chosen a simple outfit, a flowing dress in soft blue that matched her eyes, and had taken extra care with her hair, letting it fall loosely over her shoulders. The anticipation made her heart race, and every glance at the clock seemed to stretch the minutes into hours. Finally, when the sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of violet and orange, she stepped onto her balcony. Liam was already there, leaning casually against the railing, a glass of wine in his hand. He smiled when he saw her, and the sight made her breath catch. "Emma," he greeted warmly, lifting his glass in a small toast. "You made it?" "I wouldn't miss it," she replied, returning his gesture with her own glass. The clink of the glasses echoed softly across the courtyard, a private note in the quiet evening. For a few moments, they simply stood there, sipping their wine, letting the city hum around them. The distance between their balconies felt smaller somehow, more like a shared stage for a private encounter than a separation. "I wasn't sure you'd say yes," Liam admitted, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. "I hope I'm not intruding." "You're not," Emma assured him, feeling the truth of it. "I've been looking forward to this." Liam's eyes softened. "I have too. I don't often meet someone who feels familiar, even before knowing them." Emma smiled, the warmth in his gaze melting some of her nerves. There was something comforting in his words, a subtle intimacy that didn't require rushing or bold declarations. It was the beginning of something unspoken, delicate, yet undeniable. As they talked, laughter began to weave its way into the evening. Liam had a way of telling stories that made even the simplest events feel extraordinary. Emma found herself drawn in, leaning slightly toward him despite the distance, her hand brushing against the railing almost as if it could reach him. The shadows danced across their faces, shifting with the soft light from her balcony lamp and the faint glow of the city below. They shared small confessions, next favorite books, hidden talents, little quirks that made them who they were. Emma mentioned her love for stargazing, and Liam admitted he had a habit of leaving his balcony door open at night just to hear the city breathe. Each revelation felt like a thread, weaving them together in a tapestry of quiet intimacy. Then came a comfortable silence, the kind that felt rare and precious. Emma found herself noticing details she hadn't before: the gentle curve of Liam's smile, the way his eyes seemed to catch the last rays of the sunset, the subtle shift of his posture when he laughed. And Liam noticed the same: the tilt of her head when she spoke, the warmth in her expression, the soft sway of her dress in the evening breeze. "Emma," he said suddenly, his tone gentle, almost hesitant. "I feel like I've known you longer than just a few days. Like we've met in some other time, some other place." She felt a shiver run through her. "I know what you mean," she whispered, her fingers tightening slightly on the railing. "It's strange, but it feels right." The night deepened, stars blinking awake in the dark sky. They spoke less, letting the quiet moments linger, filling the space with a sense of shared discovery. Liam reached out to adjust a small cushion on his balcony, and for a moment, their hands brushed across the railing. The contact was brief, but electric. Emma felt a warmth spread through her, an undeniable connection that went beyond words. As the evening drew to a close, neither wanted to break the spell. Liam raised his glass once more. "To new beginnings," he said softly. Emma smiled, lifting her glass. "To new beginnings." And as they parted for the night, retreating to their separate apartments, the shadows on the balcony seemed to linger longer than usual, stretching toward each other in quiet anticipation. Both knew that this was only the start of something delicate and intoxicating, a story written in glances, smiles, and whispered words across the space that separated them, a promise of closeness yet to come. The following evening, Emma returned to her balcony with a flutter of excitement in her chest. The city below had begun to settle into its nightly rhythm, the hum of distant traffic and faint laughter carrying up to her. But all she could think about was the space across the courtyard, where Liam would be waiting, or at least, she hoped he would be. True to form, Liam was there. He stood leaning casually on his railing, a small lantern casting a warm glow around him. Emma's breath caught at the sight. There was a familiarity now, a comfort in seeing him in that soft light, yet the electricity of attraction still made her heart race. "Good evening," he greeted, his smile brighter than the lantern between them. "Good evening," she replied, her voice slightly trembling, betraying the anticipation she felt. She poured herself a glass of wine, watching him do the same, the mirrored movements making the distance between them feel less. They talked as the sun dipped completely below the horizon, letting the darkness of night wrap around them. Liam recounted stories of his childhood in the city, and Emma found herself laughing more freely than she had in a long time. There was something magical about the way he listened, his eyes never leaving hers, giving her the space to share, yet pulling her in with subtle, inviting expressions. "You really make the balcony feel like an entirely new world," she said softly, letting her gaze drift toward him. "It's different when you're here." He tilted his head, his eyes lighting up with curiosity. "Different good, or different dangerous?" he teased. Emma smiled, biting her lip. "Definitely different good." They fell into a comfortable rhythm, exchanging glances and gentle smiles, letting the pauses stretch between words. At one point, Liam reached toward a small string of fairy lights on his balcony and flicked one on. The tiny bulb flickered, then glowed steadily, casting a soft light across his face. The effect was mesmerizing, making him seem both familiar and untouchably mysterious. "I like it when the city feels quiet," Liam said after a pause, his voice almost a whisper. "It's as if it belongs to us for a little while, just tonight." Emma nodded, feeling a warmth bloom in her chest. "It's true," she murmured. "Like it's ours alone. A little secret between the two of us." The moment stretched, each second filled with a delicate tension, a playful curiosity. Neither of them spoke, but their eyes continued the conversation, dancing from soft warmth to sparks of longing. Emma reached over, adjusting a cushion on her railing, and accidentally let her fingers brush against the metal. Liam's hand moved, almost instinctively, closer to his own railing, and for a brief heartbeat, it felt like they could bridge the gap if they dared. Liam cleared his throat softly, drawing her attention back to him. "Emma," he said, a note of vulnerability threading through his voice, "I've been thinking, about you, about us. Even across this little space, it feels like you've been here with me all day. And I don't want this to stay just shadows and glances." Emma's heart raced, a mix of fear and excitement flooding through her. "I feel the same," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But, what can we do? There's this distance between us." He smiled gently, a playful glimmer in his eyes. "Distance can be thrilling," he replied. "It makes every moment we share more intense, more alive." Emma felt her cheeks warm, the tension between them shifting from curiosity to something more potent, a magnetic pull that neither could resist. She realized that the shadows on their balconies were no longer just passive, they were alive, moving with their desires, reflecting the growing connection that defied the physical gap. For a while, they simply sat, or rather, leaned across from each other, sharing the quiet intimacy of the night. Their words were light, but every glance, every subtle movement carried weight. Emma noticed the way Liam's eyes softened whenever she laughed, the gentle tilt of his head when he listened, the tiny gestures that revealed care and interest. And Liam noticed the same, the graceful way she held herself, the warmth that radiated from her smile, the spark in her eyes that drew him in. When the night deepened, Liam finally spoke again. "I can't wait for the day we don't have to stay on our own balconies." But until then, his voice trailed off, leaving the promise hanging like a star in the dark sky. Emma smiled, her heart light yet pounding. "Until then," she echoed, feeling the thrill of anticipation, of the shadows that danced around them, holding their secret close. The evening air was cool, brushing softly against Emma's skin as she stepped onto her balcony. The city had quieted into a gentle hum, a soothing backdrop to the flutter of anticipation in her chest. Tonight felt different, electric, as if the air itself was charged with possibility. She knew Liam would be across the courtyard, and she couldn't wait to see him. True to form, he was already there, leaning against his railing, his face illuminated by the soft glow of his lantern. Emma's heart gave a small leap at the sight. There was an ease about him tonight, a casual confidence that made him even more captivating. She waved, and he returned it with a mischievous grin. "Emma," he said warmly, his voice carrying softly across the courtyard. "You're early tonight." "I didn't want to be late," she replied, feeling her cheeks warm. I've been looking forward to this all day." Liam's grin widened, a playful sparkle in his eyes. "I have too. I was hoping we could talk more, get to know each other better." Emma leaned on the railing, sipping her wine, and felt a shiver of excitement. "I'd like that," she whispered. Their eyes met and held for a moment, the tension between them palpable. Every glance, every subtle movement carried meaning, a language only they seemed to understand. They began the evening with small talk, easy laughter, and stories that made them feel closer. But soon, the conversation shifted. Liam asked about Emma's dreams, the moments that made her heart race with joy or longing. She found herself opening up, sharing little details she hadn't shared with anyone else. And he listened, truly listened, his eyes never leaving hers, giving her the rare gift of feeling completely seen. "I've always loved summer nights like this," she confessed. "They feel endless, full of possibilities. And somehow, they feel more magical when shared with someone who understands." Liam's gaze softened, his smile tender. "I know what you mean. It's like the city itself pauses, just for us. And maybe it's the anticipation, the not knowing exactly what will happen, that makes it so exciting." A gentle breeze stirred, brushing through Emma's hair. Liam reached across his balcony railing instinctively, adjusting a small string of fairy lights. Their hands brushed slightly, and Emma felt a rush of warmth. The contact was brief, but it sent a thrill through her, a spark that lingered long after. "Your balcony looks inviting," he said softly, nodding at her space. "It feels like a place I could spend hours just being here with you." Emma felt a smile tug at her lips. "I feel the same. It's become more than just a balcony for me. It's a place where I feel connected, even from a distance." The conversation flowed effortlessly, and with every word, the invisible distance seemed smaller. Liam's charm was subtle but undeniable. He leaned slightly forward, his voice soft, his expressions unspoken invitations that drew her in. Emma responded in kind, leaning closer to her railing, letting her eyes linger, letting her smile speak volumes. At one point, Liam tilted his head toward her, a teasing glint in his eyes. Emma, do you ever feel like we're on the edge of something? Like the shadows aren't just shadows anymore? Emma's breath caught. She could feel the truth in his words, the magnetic pull that had been building over days. Yes, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. It feels like something waiting to happen, if we dare. Their gazes locked, the quiet tension wrapping around them like a second skin. Every glance, every subtle movement became a dance, a playful exchange that drew them closer even without crossing the physical distance. Shadows and light intertwined around them, reflecting the invisible thread that connected their hearts and desires. As the evening deepened, Emma realized how intoxicating it was to be near someone who understood her so completely, even across the space that separated them. Liam's smile, the warmth in his voice, the spark in his eyes, all of it made her pulse quicken. Finally, Liam raised his glass. To this, to the magic we've found in these quiet nights, he said softly, his tone full of unspoken meaning. Emma lifted her own glass, her heart light yet brimming with longing. To the shadows that brought us together, she whispered. And as they parted for the night, retreating to their respective apartments, the shadows on the balcony seemed to linger longer than ever, echoing the growing connection between them, whispering of the closeness and passion yet to come. The city had quieted once more, the soft hum of distant traffic blending with the gentle rustle of leaves in the warm night breeze. Emma stepped onto her balcony, her heart already fluttering with anticipation. She had been thinking about Liam all day, replaying their conversations, their smiles, and the way the shadows seemed to pull them toward one another. Tonight, it felt as if something was different. He would be waiting, and so would the night itself. Liam was already there, leaning casually against his railing, a small lantern casting a soft, golden glow. When he saw her, his eyes lit up, a mixture of warmth and playful mischief that made her pulse quicken. Emma, he greeted, his voice smooth, carrying effortlessly across the courtyard. You look radiant tonight. Her cheeks warmed, and she smiled, feeling the familiar thrill of being seen, truly seen. Thank you, Liam, she replied softly. You look wonderful too. He chuckled, a low, easy sound that made her heart skip a beat. I've been looking forward to tonight all day, he admitted, his tone almost vulnerable. I wanted to make it special. Emma felt a shiver of excitement. You already have, she whispered, letting her gaze linger on him. The distance between their balconies seemed smaller somehow, not just measured in feet but in the quiet intimacy of shared moments, glances, and smiles. They began the evening as usual, talking about the city, their favorite books, and little anecdotes from their lives. But tonight, there was a subtle shift, a deeper connection threading through every word, every look. The teasing smiles were there, but now they were accompanied by something more, a shared understanding, a gentle tension that neither could ignore. At one point, Liam reached toward the string of fairy lights on his balcony, adjusting them so that the soft glow highlighted the curve of his face. Their eyes met, and he tilted his head, a question in his gaze. Emma felt a flutter in her chest and reached toward a small plant on her railing. Their fingers brushed across the edges of the metal railing, just barely touching, yet the contact sent a spark through both of them. I like this, Liam said softly, almost to himself. Even the smallest gestures, they feel significant with you. Emma smiled, feeling the truth in his words. I feel the same. It's like, the distance makes every little interaction more meaningful. They talked less after that, letting the silence stretch, filled with the unspoken understanding of their growing bond. Emma noticed every detail: the way Liam's eyes softened when he looked at her, the way his smile hinted at unspoken thoughts. Liam noticed the same: the tilt of her head, the gentle sway of her hair in the breeze, the warmth that seemed to radiate from her presence. "Emma," Liam said after a pause, his voice low, almost hesitant. "I've been thinking about what it would be like if we didn't have to stay on our own balconies. If this us could be closer." Her heart raced, and she leaned slightly toward him, feeling a magnetic pull she could no longer resist. "I've imagined it," she admitted softly. "But even this, the waiting, the shadows, it makes it more thrilling, somehow." Liam's eyes sparkled, a mix of playfulness and desire. "It does," he agreed. "The anticipation makes every moment richer." He leaned slightly forward, and for a brief heartbeat, their hands hovered near each other across the railing, almost touching. The invisible thread between them seemed taut, electric, pulling them closer with a force neither could deny. The night deepened, stars twinkling above them as they continued to share stories, laughter, and quiet confessions. Every word, every glance, every subtle gesture became a dance, a delicate rhythm that drew them together even without breaking the physical distance. Emma realized how intoxicating it was to feel this kind of connection: intimate, playful, and alive. Finally, Liam lifted his glass in a soft toast. "To the moments we've shared, and to the ones yet to come," he said, his voice full of promise. Emma met his gaze, her own glass raised. "To the shadows that brought us together," she replied, her smile reflecting the warmth and longing in her heart. And as the night wore on, the shadows on their balconies seemed to stretch closer, intertwining with their unspoken desires, whispering of closeness, passion, and a connection that neither distance nor hesitation could diminish. The night was still, the city below wrapped in a soft quiet that made the world feel suspended in time. Emma stepped onto her balcony, her heart fluttering with anticipation. She had been thinking about Liam all day, about the way his eyes lit up when he saw her, the warmth in his voice, the quiet thrill that had grown between them over the past week. Tonight felt like the moment when everything might shift, when the shadows and whispers of longing could finally become something tangible. Liam was already there, his figure leaning against the railing, bathed in the gentle glow of his lantern. When their eyes met, a smile spread across his face, warm, inviting, full of the promise that had been building between them. "Emma," he said softly, his voice carrying across the courtyard, "I've been waiting for this all day." "I've been waiting too," she admitted, her voice low and trembling slightly, betraying the excitement that coursed through her. They began with their usual conversation, but it was different this time. The laughter and playful teasing were still there, but now every word, every glance, carried a depth of emotion neither could ignore. They shared small stories, little confessions, each one pulling them closer across the physical distance, each one threading an invisible connection that felt unbreakable. At one point, Liam reached toward his railing, adjusting a small lantern so its light fell softly across his face. Emma noticed the detail, her heart warming at the simple thoughtfulness of the gesture. She smiled and adjusted a cushion on her balcony, and their hands brushed lightly across the railing. It was brief, almost accidental, but it sent a spark through both of them, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had formed. "I wish we didn't have to stay on opposite sides," Liam admitted, his voice low, almost vulnerable. "I want to be closer, to share this night with you fully." Emma felt a rush of warmth, her pulse quickening. "I've felt the same," she whispered. "Even from a distance, it's been magical." But I want to be closer too. For a moment, they simply gazed at each other, the quiet hum of the city below fading into nothingness. The anticipation that had built over days, the teasing, the shared laughter, the electric glances was now tangible, almost palpable. The shadows on their balconies no longer felt like barriers, they were part of the rhythm of their connection, a space where desire and emotion intertwined. Liam leaned a little closer, careful to respect the distance, but enough that Emma could feel the energy radiating from him. "May I?" he asked softly, a question filled with both hope and gentle caution. Emma nodded, her smile radiant. "Yes," she breathed. With a careful, deliberate motion, they extended their hands across the railing, fingers intertwining for the first time. The contact was light, delicate, but electric. Both felt the thrill of closeness, the subtle joy of finally bridging the gap that had separated them. They laughed softly, sharing the delight of the moment, and their eyes met with a depth that words could not capture. For the next hour, they talked and laughed and shared silences that felt intimate rather than awkward. Fingers still intertwined, they leaned slightly toward each other, their gazes lingering, their hearts racing. The city below, the distant lights, the hum of life all faded into the background. All that mattered was the balcony, the night, and the connection that had grown into something undeniable, beautiful, and tender. When the lanterns cast their warm glow across the courtyard, Emma realized she had never felt so seen, so cherished, so alive in someone else's presence. Liam squeezed her hand gently, a small but powerful gesture that spoke volumes. "Thank you," he said softly. For letting us share this moment." Emma smiled, her heart full. "Thank you," she replied. "For making these shadows, ours." And in that quiet, golden-lit night, two hearts finally met in the delicate balance of distance and closeness, laughter and silence, anticipation and fulfillment. The shadows on the balcony stretched and danced around them, but they no longer mattered. They were simply witnesses to the beginning of something extraordinary, a connection built on patience, curiosity, and the gentle power of shared desire. As the night wore on, they reluctantly let go of each other's hands, but the warmth remained, lingering in their hearts and across the space between their balconies. And Emma knew, without a doubt, that this was only the first of many nights where shadows would turn into light, glances would become touches, and whispered words would bloom into lasting connection. The city slept, the stars blinked softly above, and the balconies, once mere spaces of separation, had become a bridge to a beautiful, tender beginning.